Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and the 10-year anniversary update is here. To say I am disappointed is unfair to being disappointed. I feel cheated. I feel angry and almost at a loss for words. This update, we were so looking forward to the Coliseum and a new way of progression, and seeing it in action for the first time, I literally almost deleted the game. I'm not exaggerating. I've never felt that in my entire Swago career, and I felt that. I felt so just misguided. The part of this update we were most negative to was Relic Delta, and that's arguably the piece of it that is probably going to get the least attention because everything else is just so much worse. So we're going to break this down. Before we go to our intro, I think this update is showing a little bit of Capital Games' hand, and it all comes right here. This was a part of their update Q&A that they left out. Right? Not something we want to say to players, but with free-to-play era levels dropping you at Gear 12, there's a strong incentive for minor spend each era to get your era levels over that hump. There's a strong incentive for some minor spend. You want to talk about the biggest lie that's ever been told? Minor spend? Right there it is. There is no such thing as minor spending in these eras so far from what we've seen. It is absorbent, it is extortion, and I cannot sit silent. So please, guys, let's get to our intro here, and then we're going to talk about all the, shit in this update that just really is, I think, not well received by the community, and some things I feel need immediately addressed. Alright, so let's start with Relic Delta. Relic Delta is active in the game. It's active, again, we've got a current territory war going on. You've got a Grand Arena that will be starting soon, Squad Arena, right? But it's active also in the Journey Guide. And there's a couple of journeys that are actually not possible. For example, Starkiller's final battle here, you use a borrowed Starkiller. You don't get to use your own, you're using a borrowed Starkiller at just Gear 13. Now, in the old days, this was not a problem, but now these Stormtroopers are Relic 5, so you're facing a Relic Delta of 5, and just watch this battle. It is impossible. You do not have the survivability, right? Watch, just wait, guys, we're getting there. Just let them cook. It is not possible to win because they kill you before you can reach your ultimate because you're facing a Relic Delta of 5. Look, ready? We're gonna go here. Boom. You can't win. You literally cannot beat the final tier because there's the Relic Delta active. Let's continue to go here to the Bo-Katan Mandalore. You're using a Relic 1 Bo-Katan Mandalore, right? She's a borrowed event unit at Relic 1. Let's go in here. Let's see the kind of Dark Trooper Moff Gideon that we're going to be facing. Oh, look, he's Relic 7. So, look at that. I mean, she's almost dead already. And she's dealing no damage. It's insanity. And again, this is where I think a lot, look at that. I mean, we just lost. That's just insane. But regardless, Relic Delta playing a massive factor in that battle. Now you say, oh, well, Phil, that's an easy fix. It's not the fact that it's an easy fix. It's the fact that it wasn't addressed at all. And that, I think, shows their hand. This Relic Delta was never about helping you in player versus player. It is, or player versus environment. It is all about granting the advantage to players who spend their resources to get Relic 9s, to get Relic 10s, and have the advantage over the rest of the player base. I want to do this battle against Darth Vorian here in Squad Arena. My Relic 8 Kylo team versus a full Relic 9 Hondo team. Both of us with, pretty good datacrons here. And we're just going to try to see how this plays out. I have my thoughts of, yeah, there we go. So Kylo even gets the cooldown increase, which is not good. That's actually like the most terrible start to begin with. All right, let's go here. All right, we get a kill. That's at least fine. But let's keep going here. Let's see how this works. Now, he told me through his that he was able to actually kill my Kylo right away. Now, there we go. All right. They're targeting the people with damage immunity. That's good. Let's get some advantage back on our guys. All right, go here. Let's stun you. Let's go here. Now, I can tell you that right there in the old, I would have killed Captain Silvo, right? I've done this fight enough times to know that that would have killed Captain Silvo, right? So I can definitely, you know, tell you from just the fight that I've done so far here that this is definitely a longer fight already, right? Than it would have been. You know, and I've got a pretty, again, my Kylo is a little bit ridiculous, but even still, I can tell you that this fight would have already gone differently than it is right now, right? But at least we're going to get through. Now, again, GAC, this will make things a lot more different for, I'd say, both teams, but it probably will be a lot harder for my Supreme Leader Kylo Ren to win just because, you know, Relic Delta, right? So, like I said, it's definitely playing a factor, but overall, I'd say Relic Delta right now, we haven't seen enough data one way or the other to be like, this needs addressed or adjusted or fixed right away. The one thing I will say with it, and this has been a problem that many of us have, there's no way to really tell that it's actually working the way it's intended, right? We don't have a way to figure out, hey, what would have been, you know, I'm taking a 5% damage penalty. Do we actually know what that feels like? You know, do we actually know what that 5% damage penalty should be? And again, that's just part of, you know, where a lot of us feel right now. Can you actually tell us what that feels like? Is that something that is actually, you know, accurate? We don't know. So we're able to win definitely a little bit longer than it used to be, but overall, you're still able to do that. We'll see how Grand Arena plays a role. But you say with Relic Delta, fix the PvE stuff, but the PvP, again, not terrible, but not great, right? Still a lot to go. Which is crazy, right? Because that was where all of us were PO'd, and I feel like it's not as awful as a lot of us were thinking, so fine. It's still some adjustments that I think will need made. I've heard some reports of other situations, and I think we're gonna find that out. And this goes into my whole argument with the beta testers. I love every single person that was a part of the beta. Everybody I've interacted with who was a part of it was really nice. They were very, you know, when I would DM them and ask questions, they were very forthcoming. But one thing I will say, it was a small player base, and they were very good players, right? Scribe, Egnards, Nooch, Fatal, you know, just to name a couple, right? Like really, really good, solid players doing the testing. They don't represent the average player in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. So what I hope, and my hottest take with Relic Delta, is that they're going to have to figure out how Delta is working, and I feel it's going to have to get tweaked every single time a new relic comes in because of the impacts. And speaking of new relics coming in, with Relic 10 now active in the game, I think we can all clearly see why Relic 10 and Relic Delta came in together. The stat increases, the mastery increases, none of it is really that crazy. It looks like you're getting a lot of stats, but it's not I would not say any of this is super ridiculous or cool. There's some nice things in here, but like 5 extra mastery, you know, a little bit of extra health and protection on a tank. It's just not really doing all that much for me, right? I'm going to argue that it's not really moving the needle all that much. And that, again, look at an attacker. Barely a change in your offense. Extra crit chance, I mean, fine. But, like, it really feels like a lackluster upgrade. And that Relic Delta is sort of the reason why you would want it, is so that you get the boost. So, you know, there's that part. But let's get to the piece de resistance, the new marquee structure, the Coliseum. And boy, the marquee structure in and of itself isn't terrible. Now, the battles take a long time because your Luke is gated at the levels by all the new era materials that you have to earn through the Coliseum or through packs. So let's go to the era store here. Now, as I said, the marquee cost did not change. Marquee cost is still the same. Nothing changed there. But leveling them completely changed. There is a ton of new packs that you're able to purchase with either crystals or with money. And in fact, for you to go beyond level 15, you need to either get those into the Coliseum or purchase them. That's absurd. But even if you bought this pack that says, hey, this helps you use for levels 1 to 15, this will not get you to level 15. Even from where I am at level 7, this will not get me to level 15. So it just feels crazy cost-wise. The expectation is for you to spend this stuff to level up the character. It feels like we've reverted all the way back to 2015. I understand the idea that they're trying to get to here, right? I said I support the idea of, hey, introduce some new materials to allow players to not have to spend their legacy materials on Stormtrooper Luke, and that way they can save those materials for the legacy characters, upgrading these guys and progressing these guys. I can support that. But I think the problem is there's not enough available here to get Luke right now that you're starting off with these characters. And I'm going to do the rest of my Coliseum battles because I want to just show, like, it doesn't feel good, right? So I have a level 7 4-star Luke. In the system I have now, I could take him to relics if I wanted to. But it's just, yeah, this whole thing. So you get this level 7 Luke, right? And the only way I can upgrade him is by getting these rewards in the Coliseum, or I can spend crystals on them that I don't feel like spending those crystals. So let's go to a battle here. Now, again, as we said, you get the characters that are all a part of this, right? But you don't really know how to use them yet, right? Like, I don't know how to use them. You know, I don't know, like, you're trying to figure it out, but it's tough. There's not a lot of, like, obvious moves here. All right, what does this one do? Let's do health recovery. And some of the animations are really cool, but it's just, yeah, I'm like, man. You don't know what the best moves are, right? Okay, basic there. Go here. And again, it's like I don't know what abilities I'm using. I don't know if it's, I'm getting like barely doing any damage at all. Go here. Here we go. So she's dead. Okay, call this in. So far, this feels so, whoops, that was not the ability I wanted to use, but all right. And there we go. I mean, so overall, 31%. I mean, that's fine. I don't know if I maybe could have scored a little bit more, but it just doesn't feel good. You know what I mean? Like, that felt super lackluster, especially compared to what I'm used to being able to do with my roster, right? Now, here's the problem. For me to upgrade Stormtrooper Luke, right, I need to be able to, hey, get all these materials that I just don't have and I don't want to spend my stuff on. Now, the question here will be, okay, well, are you going to be able to get more of these as you move along? And I think the answer is yes, right? I think you'll get there. But it just feels really slow. It feels really bad. And the other side of this, I understand wanting to start players on an even playing field. I get it. But I'm going to make an argument here, right? When you look at the rewards that you can earn, right? You earn these resources here, right? You earn the era currency. So, and let's just pick on this guy here. MF Taylor, Allies of the Force, 11 million galactic power, right? Let's go to his characters here. So he's got a handful of GLs, right? Look, a Relic 10 Leia already. So this dude obviously is spending some money, right? But when you look at his era units, he's got a 6-star level 55 Luke, right? But let's go to the era. If you go to the era shipments, you're able to purchase Lightspeed tokens or Relic 10 materials. That's it. That's all you're able to purchase here. Now you say, oh, well, that's actually really good. You know, I could use those, you know, Lightspeed tokens and stuff. Hear me out. For most players who are willing to spend that money, you'd rather just buy a Lightspeed bundle. So all you're able to really purchase with these era resources is these coaxial servo motors. That's just a small part of Relic 10. Now you say, oh, well, Phil, that's going to be the biggest bottleneck is, you know, getting those in the Coliseum. Sure. But you still got to go and purchase all the other pieces that you need for Relic 10. So my argument here is that the rewards, even though they look really solid and you're like, yeah, that's cool, we're getting a lot of stuff. The argument I make, you know, related to this is that it doesn't feel that good because I'm thinking of the players who actually benefit from those Relic 10s are going to be a smaller subset of the player base than I think many people realize. So I think that's a big problem. The reward structure is, hey, we're going to put everybody on an even playing field, but guess what? The reward structure only benefits the top, you know, couple percent of the player base that has a massive use for Relic 10. Otherwise, use them on Lightspeed tokens that are, I personally feel, way overpriced, right? I'd rather, you know, like, for example, Tusken Warriors here, which, like, you know, is looking at me. It's looking at me. But I'm not going to spend 5,000 of this. I'd rather buy, you know, the Relic 10 pieces. But I think for other players, they're going to look at that and say, I'd rather do that. You know, do you guys get what I mean? Like, it feels really underwhelming. I wish that there were other things inside of this shipment that you could purchase. You know, another thing I think could be really good to purchase in there, throw the character shards. Why not throw character shards for Luke? Why not throw character shards for, you know, these other marquee units as they come along? Just, I think you've removed a lot of the options for players, and I get that you want us to work on Relic 10, but I think right now a lot of players are looking at it and saying, I don't know how worthwhile it is. Because when you go to the scavenger, and you're like, hey, I want to craft, you know, corrupted signal data. I mean, let's just, you know, for funsies here, let's craft 15 of these puppies. I mean, we're at 350. We're at 350. We're not even at a full piece. That's insanity. You know, I mean, this is just an insane conversion rate. So yeah, it ain't fun, right? I feel this is a very big step back because I feel like they were in a really good spot with characters and character upgrades where it wasn't a lot to unlock a marquee unit, right? Like that, the star levels are still the same, but then changing the leveling system to this, I'm okay with that. But I'm not okay with it from the perspective that there's no other ways to get this outside of the Coliseum. If this was on nodes, or if this was in another area that you could farm, because that's it kind of what, like, the problem is, you're literally stuck just doing this over and over and over again. What we used to be able to do, hey, you know, I've gotten my Luke stuff, I can go into my campaigns, I can farm gear here, I can farm gear here, I can farm the, you know, signal data here, I can buy stuff here and here and here and here and here, I can, you know, there's a lot of other places I can get that. It's all confined into one area, which they said that, you know, it sounds great until you realize just how much of a problem it is to get there. So I think the reward structure really has to change. These battles, we need something, right? Another area that I think just bothers me with this is, again, you know, the cheating, right? There's cheating. There was a guy at the top here. I think it's this person. All right, Bill Adrian right here. 69,000 points, right? So you say, okay, well, maybe he just spent on the character. Yeah. That's no way, right? That's impossible, right? Same thing here. Look at this person. You can't even click on this person. And they're what? You know, like, you know, some of these guys, like, how is that possible? How are they scoring this? The only way is if they're cheating, right? Look, I mean, like, where are these people at? Now, I'm not saying that maybe this is just a bug, but if they're the top of their leaderboard in their shard and taking those resources away, then, you know, like, let's just say, for example, that this person was cheating, which I'm not saying they are. I don't, you know, they're not cheating. But let's just pretend for the sake of argument, hey, they're cheating. Okay, so they're taking up a, you know, spot of rewards here. So they're robbing people of additional rewards from their spot, even if they get kicked out. Which, this is the problem they had when they had, there was a game mode called tournaments. And tournaments were a big problem because of the amount of cheating. And if that same stuff is happening now, it's going to get even worse. So, I understand, right? I get it. I understand this system. They wanted it to, you know, encourage people to be able to be competitive across all walks. I understand it. But I think it's made so inaccessible, and it feels so much like it's not even, it is pay to play at this point. That the majority of this stuff is going to be gated behind how much are you willing to spend. And that, I feel, is the biggest, like, problem with this game mode. I don't know where to go from here. And, like, I could spend, you know, I could go in here and I could spend, you know, the 300 crystals to get, you know, a carrot my Luke to level 8. But does that really, like, do you know how many times I'd have to buy this pack in order to do that? I don't have to spend any crystals in the current system. If I want to take one of these characters up to relic levels, I don't have to spend any crystals. I have the materials to do it already. So I think there's a lot of us, myself included, who are kind of sitting here like, all right, all I'm going to do with my stuff is just buy these relic 10s. But I'm not going to spend any extra resources. I'll just wait. You know, I can wait 3 months for Luke. Right? I'm not that concerned. Like, I'm already so far behind. What is, you know, okay, I'll be fine. I'll get my relic 9s. I don't need these relic 10s. And this is the part that I think is scary. Is a lot of players have already resigned ourselves to saying, well, I'm not that worried about relic 10. I'm more worried about just catching up on my relic 9s. And that's what a lot of us, myself included, are going to be doing. We're just going to take everybody to relic 9. We'll take the Relic Delta of -5, and then we'll wait for Relic 10 to become more accessible and outside of the Coliseum. So we'll do our last Coliseum fight here. We'll get, you know, absolutely massacred, and then hopefully get some, you know, rewards or something. Because, I mean, this stuff is just, it's crazy. And, you know, again, we're using these new characters, which, you know, it's kind of cool. But it, you know, the hard part of this is that, you know, we're not using the characters in the team that you would want, right? Which I think that's where a lot of us feel kind of put down by, is, you know, we'd rather have more, like, I'd rather have the characters to use with Stormtrooper Luke so I could feel the full impact of his kit. Jeez Louise. Well, that was good. All right, let's just keep going. And like this, you know, I'm just looking at it. Like, this doesn't feel fun. All right. Go here. Jeez Louise. Yeah. So the other issue that I have not yet brought up here, I'm not even going to get my high score here, is that when you do this, right? So I got 30%. There we go. When you do this, right? So now I'm out of, you know, attempts, right? So now, look, oh, I can refresh for 250 crystals. Are you kidding me? That is extortion. Oh my God. All right. Yeah. So, wrapping this video up, we've been all over the place. You guys can tell, like, I just don't even know where to start with this thing. It is Galaxy of Spend at this point. It really is. This update needs a lot of work. And I'm going to give you guys my honest thoughts on what I think it needs. Number one, I am perfectly okay with era characters having a separate leveling process, you know, or having the ability to have a separate leveling process. But allow me to use my legacy gear if I have it. I think that would alleviate a lot of the problems, because a lot of us in the end game feel really shafted by this. Like, you feel like, okay, I have all these other resources that I've built up that just don't matter for, 3 months. Now, I get that you want people to catch up, right? And I think they would, even if you let players like myself use my gear here. Again, I will tell you I'm not going to be spending my crystals on these resources here, right? I'm not going to do that. I think it's very, like, I will tell you that I do like that it's, okay, to level 15, you use these resources, and then at level 20, you start using these, and at level, this level, you use these, and, like, they start adding those things. Like, I mean, I need to see more of it. And I feel like it's going to take so long to see it that many players are going to want to leave. So I really think they need to look at this long and hard and figure out the best path forward, because right now it feels really like it's falling flat on its face. Though it's crazy because I think the old marquee system was not that well liked, but many people liked that better. And that's kind of sad to think about. The final thing I will say is this game is 10 years old. You've hyped up this update for so long. And you talked about how it's going to help people and how it's going to be great, and it's not. And that tells me something about the people involved at the top of this game. We don't know what gets said to who, but we know what gets communicated to us. And what got communicated to us was how great this update was, how much people were going to like it. And immediately we don't. And that tells you that there's a disconnect between the people involved with creating this game and the player base. And where that disconnect happens, I'm not really sure. But there's a massive disconnect where someone is either, where I feel the community is just not being heard. So hear us now when we say that we don't like this. Hear us now when we say that we think this needs adjusted, this needs tweaked, this needs fixed. And when you do updates like this, just think, how will this be received? Maybe bring beta testers in more often, because you learned a lot from them on Relic Delta. Obviously not enough to think about adjusting these events here, which is just peak Capital Games. But you could have at least heard from them saying, hey, we don't really like this. We think this is ridiculous. So, guys, I'm really disappointed. I know this is a long one, and I'm like disappointed. I'm at a loss for words. Like, I remember playing my first Coliseum battle and just being like, that was it. That's it. That's what I get to do. And seeing that it costs 250 crystals to refresh is just, yeah. I'm really disappointed. I'm like that disappointment of like, you really messed up and you got to call your parents, and your dad doesn't even yell at you. He just looks at you and says, I'm really disappointed in you. And you're like, I wish you'd yell. Like, that's where I'm at right now. Like, I'm just disappointed. I feel like you guys lied to us. I feel like we were misguided and misdirected. And I really think this whole system already needs an overhaul. And it's not even been here for 24 hours. I want to know what you guys think. Comment down below. They need to hear us. Do not stop talking about this. Just like we did with Relic Delta, do not stop talking about this. I will continue to, talk about things and figure out the best path forward. Thank you guys again. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.